With Godzilla vs. Kong coming out, I wanted to revisit Godzilla King of the Monsters. And after I watched it, I discovered that it's actually pretty defensible, and there are some good things about that movie, and I'm going to get into that right now. Hey, welcome everyone. My name is Greg, and on this channel, I defend all of the nerdy movies and TV shows that you like that the internet says you shouldn't, because on this channel, your fandom matters. Time to get into the defensible things about Godzilla King of the Monsters. The story pieces that make sense, the character pieces that make sense, and the filmmaking pieces that all make sense. So let's get going. I want to start off by saying that there are some pretty good performances in this movie. Kyle Chandler playing the part of Mark Russell, and then Millie Bobby Brown's portrayal of Madison are actually fun performances. I actually really like the motivations of the Russell family. So after their son is killed by Godzilla, they all go off in different directions. And families deal with this type of trauma. You actually will see that these families get broken up. And it's nice to see that actually being honored and actually showing some of the ramifications of Godzilla from the first movie, that carryover. It shows that the choices in these films actually have impact. Emma decides to go in a direction of aligning with the eco-terrorists, and while that twist may not have been super twisty, it was something that actually makes sense for her character. With the trauma being set in, she can only think about how people are in the wrong and how there is only this particular natural order. She kind of like almost breaks psychologically because of the loss of her kid. And then, of course, everything that Madison does, how she is in that room when the eco-terrorists first come in and start firing the place up, how she just seems to be in all these different places, how she's able to get the machine out of the eco-terrorist base without being noticed. She seems to be very smart. Her mom seems to have raised her to be very resourceful as well, and to be able to hide some of her motivations and to be able to sneak around. So for her to be in these certain spots actually makes sense because it happens consistently throughout. So it's actually a part of who she is. And that's also something that will carry over to Godzilla vs. Kong later on. I really like how Mark Russell's character grows and evolves to really figure out how to deal with the trauma of this past and how to rectify his and come to peace with what Godzilla did to him. I think another thing I really want to point out in this movie that it does really well is the visuals. This is a beautiful looking movie. It's absolutely gorgeous and spectacular. The music works really well with it. All of the sounds work really well with it. And Godzilla and the monsters look great. The other thing that I really like about this movie is we actually get to see Godzilla. Unlike in the previous Godzilla movie that just hides him the entire time, we actually see him more often. We see the battles more often. And I do think that there's something redeeming about seeing the battles of these monsters from the perspective of the humans down on the ground. As much as we want to see these titans battle it out and punch each other, sometimes it's nice to see what is going on the ground to actually get a sense of the impact that these monsters are having on the world around them. So that part also makes sense from a direction standpoint of what we should be seeing from these fights. I also really like, from a storytelling perspective, how these titans have evolved and grown and what we know about them. And it makes sense that a company such as Monarch would actually come about and be able to try and study these monsters, see what's going on with them. And I also want to say, from a storytelling perspective, I love how Ghidorah was an alien. It was a great way to just be able to explain that this alien is so unnatural and it's just going to disrupt the order of things in a way that kind of how humans have disrupted the order of the natural world as well. I also think this movie had some really great tense moments, specifically with Godzilla and specifically with all the other monsters. I think that there were some really fun things done with that. I really like Mothra coming in as being the queen of the monsters to Godzilla's king of the monsters. I really think that was a nice little way to tie that in. I also really like how some of these monsters are clearly able to know what is supposed to be on top, what kind of creature is supposed to be on top, and what this foreign entity like Ghidorah means to them. I also like that there were only a couple of really dumb jokes. There was that gonorrhea joke that was made. I mean, it was a terrible joke, bad joke, but at least look at it this way. We weren't like bombarded with a ton of bad jokes all the time. We were, one or two is, you can get away with that. And I think this film pushed its limits to that, but I don't think they quite crossed the line into, oh my God, I have to listen to a bad joke every single scene. Another thing that was done really well was how Kong's name was just dropped right in there. It was more like an Easter egg, something that if you were paying attention you would understand, but not something that really interferes or gets in the way. This was actually not a terrible way of being able to build this expansive monster universe involving King Kong and Godzilla. It felt a lot more natural and not so clunky or forced. And it's okay for you to like this movie because there are all these defensible parts. And if you want to see me defend more movies, I have an entire playlist that you can check out right up here, and I will see you in that next video.